Evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of Thursday, March 7th, 2024. This is a hybrid meeting. This meeting of the Finance Committee will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting in person. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom, meeting ID 860-8777-1519, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.mass.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Kurt Freskowski, Chairman. The first item on the agenda is the review and approval of the February 15th meeting minutes. Unfortunately, the minutes are not available for our review and approval tonight, so we will be doing those at the March 21st meeting, where we will do the February 15th meetings and then the minutes, and then the March 7th meeting minutes for this meeting at that time. Okay, we will now move to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation by the Ayer Police Department. Welcome, Chief Gill.
Good evening, thank you.
Do you want to drive?
Stage is yours.
Sure.
Just the arrow?
Just the arrows going. We should, I think, Cindy Knox is doing the sharing. So, all right. Good evening. For all those who don't know me, I'm Chief Brian Gill, and
Deputy Chief John Bigelow.
So tonight, thank you for giving us the opportunity to go over our FY25 budget requests. Just like last year, we have a lot of moving components and a kind of a high-level overview of our organization. We're kind of broken down into certain sections, and we'll go over those more in depth by budget. But as you can see, that we have we're multifaceted with police, communications, animal control, and an administrative component of our department. Getting down into the minutia a little bit of it. So what this encompasses is 21 sworn officers, and that consists of myself, the deputy, 5 sergeants, and 14 patrol officers. And in the patrol officers, we have 1 detective right now and 1 SRO. We have 10 communication staff, and that consists of a communications manager and 9 dispatchers. We have 1 animal control officer. We have what's called a detainee watch. It's a civilian that assists watching a detainee in the cells should we need the services. And brand new to us is the civilian traffic control unit. We're going to talk a little bit about that right now. So I've got some components of our department highlighted right here. So we're gonna start with the sergeants, the kind of that higher line there. So right now we have 2 long-term injuries on the department. So that's the 11-7 sergeant and our swing sergeant. So those 2 are vacant. Last year we raised our staffing levels by 1 to add an administrative sergeant for a lot of the administrative components now that have come along with managing a police department. Consists of training, accreditation, post requirements, things like that. So that's greatly been a negative impact for us, is having these positions unavailable to us. What you'll also see is 3 patrol officers highlighted. So that it's been very difficult across the board and across the profession for patrol officers to hire patrol officers, and it's a never-ending battle. We're in a consistent state of hiring, unfortunately, and I'm not seeing an end to that just yet. Right now, we have 2 officers, recruit officers, student officers in the academy. So those 2 student officers, one is actually going to be graduating next month in April, and then they'll come on board here in a field training capacity. The other one has just started their academy. So that leaves us with the trying to find the patrol, the other 3rd patrol officer there that's highlighted. And that administrative sergeant, though it says sergeant, it's actually, to get to that administrative sergeant, we have to have another patrol body. So what you see there has impacted our operations greatly. In the green, these 2 things are kind of going hand in hand. We do have a line item in our budget for reserve officers. Reserve officers under the post commission has had to have a change, and it makes it very difficult to have reserve officers on board. So one of the things that we've done recently is start what's called a civilian traffic control unit. The good thing is it doesn't cost the town any money to have the civilian traffic controls. What they do, they're brought on board, and rather than forcing patrol officers to work extra shifts more than they're already working now, the civilians here, specially trained and outfitted, they can take up those duties. So we're using that kind of line item to use them to get them outfitted, trained, things like that. So those 2 things are kind of going hand in hand right now.
I asked you, so who pays for the civilian officer?
Yeah, so so what happens is, let's say that there's a road construction site, and the contractor pays for the civilian traffic control. You probably heard the word details.
Wow, that makes a whole lot of sense.
So we're just getting it off the ground. It's been, to bring a program like that on takes a lot of moving components, but we finally get everything going in the right direction. They've been on for just under 2 months, maybe?
Yes, yeah.
And so far, it's working out great. We have about 10 to 12. We want to keep it there. A nice manageable group who are generally retired public safety personnel. So they're kind of already familiar with the process and the professionalism that needs to go along with the job. So trying to get into some statistics here, we're going to kind of walk down a path here. So you get a 6-year plan, or 6-year kind of window snapshot, and you can see that there's a remarkable change from 22 to 23. So in 23, our motor vehicle stops have gone way down. That's not because of less traffic or less motor vehicle infractions. It's a direct result of our manpower. So what happens is, if we run into any other calls for service, we don't have any extra players out there to stay on traffic control. So they're just dealing with whatever's in front of them. If they are on a traffic control, if they do something during traffic that results in an arrest or a tow, that ties them up for hours. So again, takes them out of any type of future stuff. So moving through the slides, we'll see that also has a direct result on other avenues of us. So you'll see that our arrests have dropped off, and that's also a direct result of just manpower. And once we're committed to one thing, we're committed to that, and we really can't go anywhere. motor vehicle infractions and traffic control is one of our, areas that we really focus on. We have a lot of traffic that goes through town, and, we do our best to try and, maintain all that. Next slide is about criminal applications to court. So that's maybe an infraction that doesn't result in an arrest, but it's still a criminal infraction. So as you can see, that also is dropped way off. And again, direct result of the manpower issues that we're seeing. And this is telling of that's the traffic control, the traffic stops. We're not out there stopping a lot of traffic and supporting the safe traffic. Our accidents are going up. So, the manpower shortage that we have right now is a safety concern. So we've, bringing people on and keeping them on is of most importance to us.
That's a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so all these statistics are related to the town of Ayer. And does it include the state highways? Or is that managed by the state?
Like 2A, Route 2A, or so 2A, we patrol 2A.
Okay.
The state generally stays to the highways.
Yeah.
Not to say that they don't come through town, but we handle all the collisions on 2A. Okay. And things like that, and we do all our motor vehicle stops out there as well.
Okay. A real stupid question. Well, I'll be really good at it, so I'm learning.
Sure.
So the shortage of manpower is a result of what?
That is not an easy question to answer.
Okay.
There's multiple reasons for that. It's probably the same reason why a lot of public service is also experiencing the same thing. Some of it has to do with just sentiment against police in the communities now.
Yep.
That we lost a lot of our human capital around 2020, 2021. So, we've been, almost since that time, we've been really fighting the personnel battle.
Okay.
One of the things that we've striven to during our contract negotiations with the unions is to try and develop an atmosphere in town where we're able to recruit the best candidates and then retain them. Mm-hmm. And that's with the help of Mr. Pomprian, that's been our goal and pushing through with that. Mm-hmm. So the other reasons, I really can't put my finger on it. Again, it's just if we look towards generally everywhere, everybody's looking for higher.
So it's across the board as opposed
It's across the board.
specific to Ayer. Yeah.
Not specifically to Ayer. The profession is experiencing it. We're in the town of Ayer. We're probably just like everybody else. We were fortunate up until about a year and a half ago, where we were okay. And then the tides just kind of turned with the rest of the country. Okay. So,
but in the realm of employment, Ayer is as competitive as
and absolutely. I think we're a very competitive town. With that, so we're just resolving two contracts that employ the most of the people in the PD.
Okay.
So, and that was one of our goals, was to make sure we're competitive and make sure that we can retain our employees.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, just quick question there. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that 3 patrol officers were retired. Have they already retired, or are they about to retire?
I'm just going to jump right back then. I think we're on this rate. Is this what this? Yeah. So those are actually open positions right now.
So they have already retired?
They're not retired. They're just open positions. Yeah. So the 3 patrol.
I was wondering if when you talk about all this, the statistics numbers for last year, if you were trying to drive the point that it was because of the lack of personnel that I thought that maybe these people will retire, and so you did not have enough people to staff all the shifts. Is that part of the reason?
Correct. So these three patrol that you see on the bottom, they have been vacant in some form or another. It seems as we pick up one, one moves on. And then the
You were trying to stress that last year you were kind of short-staffed.
Correct, and that hasn't changed.
That was the reason that you were not giving enough tickets and that there were more collisions.
Yes, that's the path I'm going down. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, incidents, in the general incidents that we're still responding to, we're still swinging up from the COVID years. Even though the trend line is showing it slightly down, I think that's just I think that 2018 is skewing the trend line there. We're on an upswing.
Is that just a call, like a general incident, or is that something?
So that's anything that we respond to. So
Okay.
that could be a traffic stop, that could be a calls for service. Generally, these are going to be all calls for service. Okay.
Question?
Yes, Eric.
So there were about 800 so incidents, but I think a couple slides back, you had shown there were like 17 or 1800 somethings. Nope, wrong direction.
Wrong direction. Incidents, time of day. So this slide here, yeah, so these are our incidents.
Yeah, and then back another one or two.
Other way.
The other way.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, down is not back.
You can go left and right if it's easier.
Here we go.
Yeah, but you have like, yeah.
Oops, sorry I did that.
Yeah, back one more. One more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2,700 and 1,800 stops.
Yeah, so
what's the difference, say, between a stop and an incident or whatnot?
Great question. So these are motor vehicle stops, and the incidents are incidents where we write a report. So generally, they're going to be, we get dispatched to a residence for whatever reason, we document that in a incident report.
Okay, thank you.
So if you pull someone over and say, you're going too fast, don't do that again, that you don't write that up.
So that we don't write up that way, but if, say, we tow your vehicle,
Yeah, okay.
then there would be a report and that would be an incident.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you.
All right. So this just shows the breakdown of the incidents by time of day and the day of week. This has changed a little bit for us from last year to this year. The time of day kind of is right around there. And I think that really what we're seeing here is also attributed to the manpower issues. That we have a faster drop off at night from say 5 to 6 p.m. and then it just kind of goes right through the night. It drops off. Last year, we really didn't start a drop off until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. What I think is happening here is that we're getting tied up with writing reports and we have nobody else to go out and do traffic stops that would result in that, we're just getting tied up with other things and not being proactive. And then the all incidents by day of the week. Last year, it was up and down and up and down. It was almost like every other day we were busy, not busy, busy, not busy, or not busier. This seems to say like Sunday we start ramping up into Monday and we kind of stay strong right up until early Saturday morning, and then we kind of go to our lower points. But it's showing that at the most or at the least we're dealing with approximately 100 incidents a day.
Are these traffic
low.
incidents? Traffic or?
No, that's just overall incidents, not including just traffic, not just single traffic stops. So this is getting called to respond to something which could be traffic stop that involves writing a report.
Got it.
So it just shows that we're, through the week, we're staying up there rather than coming up and down. All right, let me just catch up on my notes here, make sure I'm... Okay, so we're gonna start getting into the breakdown of the budget areas. The first area that we're gonna talk about, which is gonna be the police budget, and it's highlighted up here. And these are all the functions that are falling under the police budget. Let me just see, that's gonna be the, everything that you would associate with the police, but it's also the office manager and the department assistant. As you can see, we have three shifts, the 7 to 3, the 3 to 11, and 11 to 7. And in general, each one has 4 officers assigned to the shift, but that doesn't mean we have 4 officers working it all the time. There's a rotation that ensures that a certain level of service is out there. So those would just be the people that would be assigned to the shifts. We talked about the civilian traffic control, that they're on call, and that their pay comes from private contractors or public contractors. So this is a condensed version of the budget request that's out there, that you have in your packet. And this, the big piece of paper, we shrunk it down to make it easier to look at and talk about. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna go line by line and talk about each one of the accounts in the budget line of the police department. All right, so the first line we're gonna talk about is the salary line. And this is where, under this is where the deputy chief and I are paid from. And one of the things that we just want to clear up on the increase and the percent increase on this, it looks like in the FY24 number that the 2% COLA was not applied into there, which would have equated to the 6,500. So in reality, the FY25 increase only encompasses the chief's, the deputy chief's step, which is about 3,200. So those numbers aren't really telling the clear picture, but what it is saying is that, that there is a difference from FY24 to here, and that's what the difference is. But in reality, those COLAs have been applied, and that the only increase right now is just the 3,200. And we're only, so only the deputy chief is represented here in the increase, and that's because my personal service contract is still being negotiated as we're speaking about now. So in a future setting, that'll change. So then we're going to move on to what's called the wages line. So under the wages line, that's where we pay the sergeants and patrol officers, the office manager, the department assistant, and if a prisoner watch or detainee watch comes in to assist with a detainee. So there's a kind of a number, a glaring number, that the increase is only 3,192. So we're always looking at our budget and finding ways to be efficient and making sure that everything's on the where it needs to be. So we have a very complicated budgeting process and a worksheet that we use. And while we were going through it this year, in part and parcel because we cleaned up a lot of our kind of our money picture by separating a lot of the dispatch out into the dispatch line. So as we recall from last year, a lot of the dispatch money was moved more appropriately into the dispatch budget. So something wasn't really making sense to us. So we looked at this worksheet and we found that there was an arithmetic error in the way that that the spreadsheet was calculating the college incentive for just one group, the patrol officers. So with that, we were able to, we rectified it in this budget by taking that out. So with that, it was a difference of about about $100,000. So now one of the things that it should be the next question is, well, if we've, this has been extra money for so many years, where has that been? We've been turning back much more than that every year back to the town. So it's not, this extra money has never been spent on anything else. So this money was unallocated, so it just went back to the town. And I do have those breakdowns for the last couple years of how much money we've been turning back to the town. If you want to hear about that.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't know. I was going to have a general question about, I'm going to use the term retained earnings, and I'm going to glance at Barbara and Robert. So, and let me know if we should address this later, but what I'm wondering is, and this is one instance of it, we have low staffing, but we're budgeting for what we would hope we would have. So do we have retained earnings from the police department because of the staffing not being up to speed? Am I asking that correctly?
I think so because we haven't been up to staff for several years, that's why we've been turning back even more money than that. So not only this money, but other monies as well. And
okay, that's what I assumed. I just went, okay, great.
So you can just give me a second to.
Chief, to just add one point?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes.
The other, just so the microphone, the other issue which is unique to the police department is if there's a vacancy, whether it's a retirement or what have you, unlike a lot of traditional positions where there's a hiring process of a couple weeks or maybe a month, there's a much longer process in hiring new police officers, so that creates a lag as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a year from the time, if we hire somebody that's brand new that needs to go to the academy, from the time that we advertise to maybe the time they get out is the good portion of a year. Okay. So there's something like that. So, just FY '23, the calculation issue resulted in about 93,000, and we returned out of the wages line 212.
Yeah.
So. And that's a direct result of not having staffing as well.
Right. So it's good. So all this stuff meshes to, for lack of a better term, A follows B. We're not up to staff. We're budgeted for it. Therefore,
and that kind of made it more confusing to identify. I think was the fact that we just did, we had this money, and it wasn't until we were we kind of pulled out the dispatch money. It kind of made the money kind of stuck out a little bit more for us to look further into it.
So this is an example of this overall trend in a way.
Yeah. So this is I think would be an efficiency for splitting out that money. As painful as it was last year to have all these all the lines moving around. This is, I think, kind of helps identify, these, any issues like this, or anything similar like this more easily.
Great, thank you.
Question?
Well, I was going to ask you.
And excuse me, Eric, Bob's going to ask a question, then you're next.
So it looks like I was just asking about the drop off of wages from fiscal year '21 to fiscal year '23, and that's where the adjustment was made, Chief Gill?
So that's...
Looks like they moved it up into the salary as opposed to the wages, is that?
Yeah, so those are the 21, 22, and 23 are the actuals. So that's when, we've, that's when the year that we were really, we were low as well.
Okay, thanks.
And Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, so for the FY '25, does that not salary. Did the wages line include 1, 2, 3, none of the patrol officers? Like you said, one is graduating in April. Is his included or hers included in that? Or are the other two or empty positions as well, hoping they will be filled, or not at this time?
Great question. So the simple answer is yes. So every position there, we budget for, and we try to budget for the step that they're going to be in for that fiscal year. For the new officers that are in the academy, we try to plot where what their highest step is going to be in that year, and budget for them for there. And that's why that there'd be the return of money at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment, Bob. I think that I didn't really hear your question clearly, but I was wondering if you were asking why is there a big drop between FY22 and FY23, and I think that it's probably just that their accounting differences, that they probably take some of the expenses to a different line, different account. So I think I heard the chief say that maybe the dispatchers were counted, So I think the overall budget would not have decreased like this, but for this line, the wage line, it looked like it decreased probably because some of the expenses were counted to a different line.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I believe partially, yes. I think that through the chair, I think what we're seeing in there is that was the year we didn't have a deputy chief. That hadn't been made yet. So I think that's why we're seeing such a difference in that year. So that would.
But I thought deputy chief wouldn't be counted in this line. This is
Oh, good point.
only for sergeants, patrol officers, and other people here.
That was just staffing. Oh, Barbara has something. So you are correct. From fiscal 22 to 23, we added a new salary line. So if you go back to the salary one, you'll see it increased substantially in 23 because they were reorging some of the lines. And that's why the 23 in the wage line is lower.
That you have just put the expense into different lines. Yeah, that's all.
Exactly.
So it came out of wages and went into
That's the salary.
Got it.
Reorganized.
Yeah. That's what I thought. If you look at the bottom line, the last line, it probably would be, not this big change.
I don't want to drag it out, but all benefits are in these numbers, or are they somewhere else?
These are the benefits are, when you say benefits?
Health insurance.
That's a different line. I believe that's in the, one of the town hall lines.
It has its own budget category further down in the budget.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on the wages line that I can help with?
Eric, Jen, you're all set with your questions for right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good questions, good. Okay.
All right, so overtime, we're not asking for any increase in this line. We made a major adjustment in that last year, and we're comfortable with keeping it right now. I think as we come up to, hopefully we'll be up to full staff this year, and we'll have a much clearer idea of the overtime implications with overtime training things, and you'll see all the drivers of that. And of course, if you're down in staffing, that those things aren't having to be filled with overtime. So there's no change in that line. So we're gonna go over to the services line. So there's been some increases here. This is where we do our new hire testing, and that could be anything from our psychological testing to our medical screenings, things like that. All comes out of here. This is where our vehicle maintenance comes out of. And you can see the timeline, FY 21, 22, 23, it's growing. And right now we're projected, if it keeps going, between 28 and 29,000 for that. So that's so there's an increase there. That's what's there. Also out of here is the maintenance agreements for our department. And in here you'll see that some of our major drivers it's a change in our managed network security. That the increase is about 14,000. This is kind of like the mid-range of managed networks security. Between me and the deputy, we're able to handle some of the things in in-house, so we don't have to have the full managed security or full managed networks security and upkeep. So we're going to stay in this mid-range, so we're only going to see this 14,000 increase here. Accreditation consulting services. So this, to maintain accreditation, it's an ongoing process. We meet weekly. And we were using monies out of a gift account to pay for that previously. That's since expired, and we're now using, going to be putting it into the services line. There is a new requirement for phones in a building to identify where each phone is at. I believe it's a 911 requirement, and 911 came in and just happened to test our phones and said, you need to update your phones. So we were able to get that out of the actual phone system itself out of a grant through 911, but the maintenance of it is not covered by grant. So this is what you're seeing here is just the maintenance of that system. So we, this insurance line for the equipment that we have. So this is a piece of specialty equipment that's new to us. It's a drone. And it's got its own insurance policy. It was quite surprising how many questions we had to answer about it, but so it's there, and that's just new line in that. But we did move $8,000 approximately to the dispatch. This is one of these other moves. So the dispatch console had a maintenance to it. These are the radios that the dispatchers use, or the computers where the radios connect to. So we've moved that $8,000 over to the dispatch, and you'll see that when we get down there. So all this moving parts here attributed to this $17,000 increase for that. So and there was other parts of the maintenance agreements that were reduced or just simply eliminated. This is so National Grid Electric. We don't do the electric for the building, but we do have our radio tower, which has its own electric meter up there, and our Verizon business lines. This is just us looking ahead and kind of projecting that this is going to be the actual cost in FY25 compared to how we're paying now. Supplies. So coming out of here, it's just, it is what it is. So the vehicle supplies are clean equipment for the vehicles, clean equipment inside, and any type of office or general supplies. So we have a decrease in here overall. We've moved, although some things have gone up, we've moved the new hiring equipment and clothing into clothing. I think it's going to be the next line, in our body armor and carriers. So, and it just seemed to make sense putting all of this stuff in one spot, all the clothing and clothing. So that's why there's a decrease to that, but not and it's not because that's how much the body armor and stuff carries. It's the two components, some moving up, some moving down. So here's clothing. So this is the increase that we see over on this line. So this is contractual clothing and equipment, outfitting the new hires, replacing expiring body armor and carriers. Those all get replaced every 5 years. They have expired. One of the things that we just got enrolled in this year, we don't know how much what the savings is yet. But we got into a body armor grant, which pays for half of the body armors up to a certain fee. So we should have some stats on that for next year's, how much that's actually saved us next year. And then this is also the line we use to replace any of our equipment that gets broken or is worn out. And part of our accreditation process is we are more diligent in making sure our equipment is inspected on a routine basis. And we often find, not often, but occasionally we find some things that are unserviceable and need to be replaced. So that component is working. Professional dues, training, subscription fees, and tuition reimbursements. So this has gone up a little bit, 8,200. And this is supporting all the training that needs to happen throughout, for every facet of the department. We've even begun to incorporate our administrative staff into kind of like a yearly update and in-service with them. Conferences, any of the training stuff that we have to attend on a yearly basis. So everybody in this line, this is where all the training comes out of. Okay, this is hot off the press as of about 1 hour before. These numbers aren't reflecting the change, but we just got new quotes in. So you see, we requested an FY25 of $81,000 for a new car, and what that also includes the computer that goes inside of it, the MDT computer. We put in this order when? October-ish?
Yeah, in the fall.
So in the fall, we finally, the cars were released. We put in an order with the with our vendor, gave him the specs. Everything was good. Everything looked like it was moving and grooving. We just followed up with them a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, where's our car? We haven't heard anything." And Ford had pulled the line. So they actually, the whole industry is in an uproar right now. So we're like, well, that doesn't do us any good. And so they have some 22s that are on the lot, apparently reserved, where they have one reserved for us. So they've given us some updated pricing for that, which is about $12,000 less than the price we see here. I'm not sure. So the price is going to be different. I'm not sure if that's going to be the ongoing price. We're getting like a brand new 2-year-old car. So
all the warranties, they're going to honor all the warranties and stuff.
yeah, so that part of the contract pricing that they have to do is they have to have a warranty with them, that a police car warranty. So 3 years, it usually is pretty good, but
300,000 miles.
yeah.
Bumper to bumper.
Just checking.
Yeah. We try to make sure it doesn't have engine hours, because that wouldn't work for us.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So though this year it's going to be a reduced figure, I'm not sure if that's going to be the figure going forward. So so the 81 may be a figure that we use, moving forward. So it's just going to be a note that we make in the budget to understand, for the future budgeting. I mean, if it comes in at the 70 whatever, then great. But if not, we'll just stick with that. And we are using the hybrid vehicles, and we're still, and I don't have the numbers on me right now, but we still are experiencing a cost savings with having the hybrids in service for us as a patrol cruisers. Okay, so that, in a nutshell and very quickly, the police department line. Any questions on the overall there? We kind of hit it line by line, but anything we want to revisit?
No, I have nothing. I just was looking back at last year's budget, and last year's final budget there was an overall increase of 6.02% for the police department, and I'm noticing right now we're looking at overall 1.93%, correct?
Correct. And what we don't have, represented here is the two contracts that were recently negotiated.
Gotcha,
in
right.
personal service
Okay,
contract.
so that's subject to change, okay. But I think overall, it looks like this budget's looking on a percentage basis compared to last year. Good.
Yeah, I think that the potential is I think overall we might see somewhere in a low 4% for overall.
Okay. Okay, so, okay, good. All right.
And Mr. Chair, somebody has a hand up in the,
Oh,
Well, do you want to take questions now or wait till the end?
I would go ahead, let's go ahead and take questions now.
Okay, on the police part.
Yes.
Let's.
Pauline.
Pauline. Go ahead, Pauline.
Good evening, and thank you so much for recognizing me. I have a hard time referring to my friend Brian as Chief, but Chief, I will do so respectfully during this meeting, and to you, to Deputy Chief. I only have two simple questions. I hope they're simple. The materials that you presented tonight, are these available anywhere online for the public to look at?
they will, through the chair?
Yes, I believe, actually, I'm going to double check with the town manager. I believe they will be posted. Yeah, those will be posted within the next, tomorrow. Okay, Pauline? So those will be out
Thank you.
under town manager FY 2025 folder.
Budget.
Yep.
All right, so, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, and Robert has heard this from me dozens of times, so I apologize. It's really helpful to have these materials attached to your agenda, because as whoever shares is doing the sharing, you all can scroll, the sharer can scroll through, but those of us out here in Zoom land can only see what you allow us to see. But if it's online, we can look at it independently during the meeting without interrupting. And this is no criticism, as another person on the Zoom meeting has asked several times during the meeting to go back and forth to certain screens. So please try and add these things to your agenda, Mr. Chairman, if you could. And I realize this is a work in progress, but I just want to save that for another time.
Okay.
And the other question, Brian, oh, sorry. You referred to, especially in the wage line, money, quote, turned back. And I just want to know, is that money, quote, turned back encumbered? Or does it revert directly back to the general fund? And somebody might want to explain what encumbered funds mean, because it's a municipal budgeting item. So that's the question with respect to the overage in wages to the positions that you have not filled.
Okay. So Pauline, just to summarize that real quick, that ties back into my question about retained earnings in general. And then you're putting a finer point on if that it would be encumbered or unencumbered. Correct? Yes. That's how. And by the way, your other note about the presentations, I've noted that. I know that's being discussed, the logistics of putting a presentation with the agenda. So that's something that can be discussed. Robert?
Thank you.
We're going to address the...
Either one?
Yeah, just so the microphone. So, to the question that was raised, in this case, the police department, the funds that the chief are talking about are reverting back to the town's free cash. So they go back to the general fund. If they were to be encumbered, each department, as the FinCom is aware, there's a deadline each year that they make a request to encumber that funding to carry it through for police use to the next year. But I believe that the last several cycles have largely all been reverting back to free cash to the general fund.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Okay.
Thank you very much. That answers my question. I appreciate it.
Good. All right, well, do we have any other, again, would like to, okay, no other questions. You want to continue, Brian?
Sure.
Chief, excuse me?
Answer to both. I'm good. Let's see here. All right. So,
There you go.
all right. So we're going to jump over to the dispatcher's budget line. All right, so just a quick thing about our dispatch. So our dispatch in 2018, we became a regional dispatch with the town of Shirley. And we're staffed with two dispatchers at all times. each shift, they have the same kind of shift, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. There are 3 dispatchers assigned to each of those shifts, and they're just on a rotational basis, so there's always 2 people working. Our communications manager is not part of the desk staff, so to speak, but he does help out when necessary. He can fill in. So just like with the patrol, the police budget, we're gonna kind of go line by line with the dispatch budget. It's a little bit shorter, but there's a lot going on in this budget. So we're gonna jump right at it, and we get some kind of hot off the press stuff here as well. So the numbers that you guys are all going to be looking at on your desks are not exactly accurate anymore. So as you can see right off the top in the line, and we're going to talk about this more in particular, the 51-100 line wages, there's a remarkable difference there from what you're seeing on your papers. And we'll talk about why that is. All right, so just a quick overview. We in the communication center dispatch, we get a lot of funding from State 911, and some of it's merely because we're a regional communication center. And as you see in the first line, that number is a lot higher than a standalone communication center because we're a regional communication center. So we're gonna. So what the support and incentive grant does, supports, just like it says, the operation of the center. And as we talk about a little bit down lower, you'll see that it's generally used for a wage offset. The regional development grant, just kind of what it says, they're pretty good at 911 by identifying the grants. It's to develop the communication center, so generally new things. And with this grant, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in the communication center. That grant can be used to help develop the agencies that are associated with the regional communication center. So that would be not only the center, but the Ayer Police Department, the Ayer Fire Department, Shirley Police Department, Shirley Fire Department. So every year we go through a process, and we just submitted this grant to State 911 today. And it's a very, very thick packet that we have to send them. But so it's kind of a wish list of things that we want, that each agency wants to kind of move forward and kind of develop. Usually it's centered around communications, radios, CAD equipment, things like that. The 911 training grant. So this is an important grant for us because what it does is it funds generally the overtime that's necessary to continue the required training of the dispatchers. So pretty much everything involving training is covered by that grant. And then this is something that's brand new this year, is the 911 EMD grant. And previously we were paying for the maintenance of the EMD software that we use, and this grant is used to offset that. So we're no longer having to pay for that out of the dispatch budget. All right, so jumping in, salary. So the only person that's in this is our communications manager. So this is and really what we're seeing in the increase here is just a salary step increase. The COLA has not been applied to this yet though. The next one is the wages line. So in here, this is where the 9 dispatchers are. And we're kind of, next slide is going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. So, all right. So the wages line, when we start to build this up, is at about $681,000. Then we take the numbers that are available to us from State 911 as to what we think that the support and incentive is going to be for that year. And generally, we're about a year behind. The reason why there's a change here is this year we're not a year behind. We actually know the numbers now, so we can apply them now. So we were able to not be a year behind. So that's why we're seeing this difference in the request. So the increased 911 support and incentive, which is sitting right here at 354, is bringing that number way down. So that's why we're able to see that kind of realization there. So the core of that is $329,000. We received an additional chunk of support to offset the difference in what Shirley has been able to afford. So as of right now, what the town pays in the wage line, just in the wage line, is sitting right there at 181. So that's having all of these things take effect right here. So FY25 is looking at this number of a reduction. So one of the things that's not reflected here is the intermunicipal agreement that's currently under negotiations with Shirley. So these numbers could change again. So there's a lot of moving components in here, but I think the good news here is that we have updated numbers that we're able to apply to this year's budget, which really brings down what's required to fund that operation there. One of the confusing things here is the town of Shirley's assessment right now, which is $145,000, isn't shown in this assessment. So that's why I wanted to put up that 181 up there, because that's kind of gives a clear picture of, after the assessment, this is what the town of Ayer is paying in that line.
I have a question.
I guess I don't quite understand the wages prior to a 911 offset is how did that number come from? That seems like a very different from your wages. I mean, it seems like none of the items on the wage line actually agree with the numbers you listed here. So I understand the lines underneath, that the wages prior to 911 offset and the support and incentive grant and then shared assessment, and then come down to what Ayer actually will have to, the net cost to Ayer. But how does that relate to this line item here? It seems like it doesn't agree with any of the numbers.
Mr. Through the chair?
Yes.
So is the question,
My question is that, so that the numbers you put up here, the wages prior to 911 offset, so that's the big number to start with. But
Right.
how does that number relate to the numbers on this line, wages? You're talking about the requested FY25 number, right?
correct, that number has come down.
But the thing is, none of these numbers here meets the numbers down here. So what's the relationship between the numbers on the column and the numbers that are listed below?
So the new support and incentive number is 354,867.
Yeah, but that doesn't match any numbers on the wages line. Also, that's a grant. You can't count on that number to be there in the future, right? That's a separate question. But I'm just trying to understand how this number and the numbers on the table, what's their relationship?
I was going to point.
Your meeting.
Yeah, I hope you understand that.
Actually, yes, I hear what you're saying, Jen, and I think I'm going to point some things out on the screen. Can I actually point at the screen or just?
I think just don't touch it.
Can you see the
there we
mouse or
go.
no?
Okay,
Yeah,
there we
I
go.
can see the mouse, yeah.
Okay, so Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we here's the total wages, correct? We've offsetting it with 354,867.
No, you don't need to explain all those. I
Okay.
understand everything in the.
But then that gets us.
The numbers there don't match any of the numbers on, the numbers in the columns.
Okay, bear with me, Jen, because I'm trying to make sure I understand too.
Yeah, please.
So, am I correct, Chief, in saying 681 less, that's the wages, less the grant gives us the budget number of 326,434.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Now, are you following that, Jim? Wages?
Okay, you're
This
right,
is the
you're
true
right.
wages,
Okay,
but
all
we're
right.
getting them reduced by this
Got it. Thank you,
grant.
Kurt. Yeah.
Right. And then of this 326,434.
Yeah, I understand the rest.
Okay.
All right. So that's the difference of the first two numbers there. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Okay, good, good.
I was
Thank
just-
you,
I was
Jim.
just
You were
trying to make
asking
sure
the
I
question
understood the
that
question.
I was afraid to ask.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
So we get a grant every year, it looks like, right? Because the previous years are still around the current year.
Correct.
And you're saying that we just know the forward-looking number now that we've got a higher grant. Previously, it was a backward-looking number.
Right, so, and this is why this, to kind of pin this down is very difficult. The core number really is 329,667. We were able to convince 911 to increase that by 25,200 last year on an annual basis. So that's why we're relatively confident that that's a good number. So it's not they call it a grant, but it's money that's consistently allocated to each town automatically.
Okay, so as
So
I'm,
Chief, you expect this, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go.
You expect this grant to continue every year?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
They call it a grant, but it's, when it comes out, it tells you how much you're getting awarded. You just got to apply for it.
okay, so I'm looking at this line item in the actual budget that I have in front of me. That went up 3.35%. So that's the wage. Actually went up 3.35%, but our grant was increased larger than that, so we have a decrease.
Correct. Yes.
Go team.
Very good. Good, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Jim.
And then the highlighted blue is just what I wanted, because it's very difficult to understand the nomenclature of how this is calculated. But, so this is what the taxpayers of Ayer for this line are actually paying, is that 180, for the FY '25, is that 181?
Depending on negotiations.
Depending on a couple other
Yeah,
things.
it'll
But
be around
as
that
of
number.
right now, these numbers here,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, just to summarize for Andrew's question, so that budget, again, the total wages less the grant, 326,434, is going to be tentatively, we're looking at Ayer's portion of that being 181,434. And Shirley will be tentatively picking up the 145,000.
So that was that's their assessment for the agreement that they're in right now, which is being currently renegotiated.
Exactly, so that's why I used the word tentatively. Good. Thank you very much. Okay.
This is a very confusing slide, so I want to make sure that if anybody has any questions, I want to try and answer them.
I'm seeing none.
Okay, go ahead, Chief.
All right, so this is the OT line. So we're not asking for any increase in here. We think that this is a good number, that any of the other training needs that get covered by OT or that are in that training grant that gets covered there, which again is an automatic kind of number that says come apply for it. This is I'm gonna go back one. I don't know if you had a hand. I don't know if you raised your hand.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm just doing math in my head. Well, not in my head, I'm just doing on the...
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
So so this is the services line. So we talked about in the police budget, we took some money out, brought it down to here. So that's where we're seeing, some of the increases. Seeing a 40% increase is a kind of a shocker, but when you look over what it actually is representing. So there are, with all maintenance agreements, there's always yearly increases. The new digital recorder, this is where this is landing here. And this is where we brought from the dispatch consoles from out of the police budget and brought it into here, so it would be funded out of this budget. And then we also subtracted out the EMD software that was previously out of this number. So that's all getting reduced there. So overall, all of these moving parts here, just, they came up to a $9,000 increase. Not just, but that's what they ended up being. So this is our supplies. That seems to be working for us. We're not gonna ask for any more. Contractual clothing, this hasn't changed, so we're not gonna be looking for anything different here. Professional dues and training and subscriptions, in this line, it was, we kind of evaluated it, and we thought we're comfortable that we could run it with that number there. I think there's some fixed training that's in there that we were able to positively identify the needs there.
I have to go back, I'm sorry. So when I looked at, this is the math I was doing, I was looking at, let's see here, what line was it? The dispatcher's budget line, the wages.
I'm gonna go back on this one.
Yeah, so when I look at the town warrant budget, I guess is what it's called, the wages there, dispatcher's wages are different than what we have in here. So we've got $352,499 in the town budget, and then what's showing up here is $326,434. I'm just trying to figure out what the
So
difference
Robert,
is.
you're comparing the presentation to the actual draft
Correct,
of
yeah.
the 2025 budget.
Correct.
Is that the change in number?
Is that just a typo, or is
That
that,
doesn't include the increased grant incentive,
doesn't?
it looks like.
So, do you want me to show you what it is, Chief?
I'm
Just right here, the highlight.
So, here's the most recent. And
Okay.
this is the,
So he's looking at,
right? I don't know if that's just a typo, or I'm missing something.
right here, this number is what he's looking at.
So the question is the difference between what's in this and what's up here?
No, yes, correct, yeah.
Right, so the request, so the FY, the 35249, this was this was just identified today.
Oh, okay.
This was just
All right.
identified today, so
All
so what you're seeing here is the updated reduction
Got it.
in that line.
Okay, thanks.
And this
That's what you were
draft-
saying earlier, yeah.
And this draft was done on
December.
December.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
February.
okay,
Hot
thanks,
off the press was the other number.
thanks.
Yeah, we had a couple hot off the press moments here today, so
The atmosphere felt the pressure, but
Which is, I will make a quick sidebar, which is a interesting thing to remember, is that these presentations that you, the fire department, Dan will be doing with the DPW are up to the minute, which I think is very nice. So they are, so that has to be taken into account.
all right.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things running through my head too, so.
Sorry.
Nope. I just want to make sure I try and get that. Any questions? Let's E&D, I think we did that. General. Oh, we were just. I think we were.
yeah,
I think we
professional
were
dues.
here, right?
Yep, you're under.
All right. So, any questions on the dispatch line? Dispatch line.
Question?
Eric, do you have a question?
Yeah. So on the wages line, you had broken that out and said because it's regionalized, Ayer has one portion of it and Shirley has the other. But it wasn't broken out on on the top line. Is that because, am I assuming the same thing for all of the other lines in this chart as well? Everything having to do with the dispatch? There's a portion of it that's a Shirley assessment as well for each line?
This is where so the support and incentive grant gets applied mostly to the wages. Let me see if I have But if you look at where it says the town of Shirley assessment, the 145, that's not shown on the offset here. So that comes in 2 installments. And that, I believe it just goes into just comes into the general fund at that point.
No, what Eric was asking is that when you go back to the last slide where you have all the different line items, he's asking if the other lines would also have a surety portion and an A portion.
Like clothing and
The wages,
supplies.
you were saying that there's a surety assessment, but you got clothing, the equipment, and maintenance, all the rest. Do those also have a part that you assess surety?
No, so we apply the support incentive in almost entirely into the wages line to offset the wages. And then the 145 comes into the town and doesn't get applied back into this budget. But, so I understand that, so the question is, like, in these lines here, such as here, here, is there a surely offset? And I guess the simple answer is no. So that's just the part of the assessment that we take in during the year is covered in there.
Can I ask why? Only wages are offset and not the rest of the cost that comes associated with having the dispatcher?
I mean, a fair question, absolutely fair question. So I think that the best way to answer that is the ease of the support and incentive grant and the way that it's applied for. So it's broken down into, do you have the support incentive is, do you have specific functions that you're trying to do, and one of those functions is personnel costs. The other would be specific equipment upgrades. I can tell you that clothing is not covered by the support and incentive grant or anything by 911 for that matter. So I think that's where the town of Shirley assessment portion of that comes into play, as part of the functions there. So the town itself is getting that, not necessarily the individual lines. If that makes sense.
I'm not sure, but okay, let's move on.
Eric, I think that if I might venture a guess, of my understanding is that a lot of those miscellaneous items are kind of covered under the support incentive grant. So that's why we're not assessing Shirley separately.
So the Shirley assessment is not based on this one line. I think that the reason why we put this 145 here is because it makes sense as to how the support and incentive grant has implications into this line. So the 145 that we're seeing here is really just applied to the whole regional communication center itself through the town. So
okay, so it's sort of just like essentially like a bookkeeping. You just enter it here, but it's actually taken into account across the entire dispatch budget, if you will.
correct, and it's probably confusing that we have it under, in this line, but what we're trying to do is just exemplify kind of like the overall picture of how the 911 support incentive grant is used in here. And then it just kind of shows the overall cost. And then having the 181 reflective to this line is really, I think that the 181 is reflective to the whole operation itself as well.
I understand now. Thank you very much.
So it's all consolidated into one line, as opposed to distributed amongst all the lines.
Correct.
Got it.
I'm going to see in future presentations, I'm going to see if there's a clearer way to identify this, but probably take me all of a budget year to figure out if there's a clearer way to do it.
I think that's clear. I mean,
Well, I'm going to ask one question, and I'm going to direct this to you, Robert. This, from what I understand, we are also doing, I'm using the word negotiations, I don't know if that's correct, with Shirley on this particular topic, but aren't there other topics that we're negotiating with Shirley? And I'm just...
Just the, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the negotiations are on the regional dispatch agreement. It's intermunicipal agreement.
Okay.
So those should be concluding, shortly. It'll be a 3-year agreement, a new agreement, and that's why, as the chief was mentioning, that number will change for FY25.
And okay, so that's just for the dispatchers. And once we have that agreement, that will be something in black and white that
Yes.
we can look at, and that will
Yep.
give us a lot more detail also.
Yep.
Terrific.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you want to do open and public comment on the dispatch thing? Or just-
No, I was going to say, let's go ahead and, Chief, in the interest of time, go ahead and finish your presentation. We'll see if there's any more questions then on your presentation.
Sure.
And keep our meeting moving on. So I think you're going to move on to the animal control.
Animal control, let's see here, so very little change here. As you can see, the only area that has changed is the wages, and that's just with the contractual increases to her. Real quick, some descriptions on what comes out of there. So the animal control is a part-time stipend in position. And also the barn inspector, which is paid out of a different line. There's a barn inspector line, I believe. So the services line, what would come out of there is any of the in-service training that she needs to do, that's required of her every year, any professional development, any time that we need to board an animal in a kennel, and any medical services and animal exams that we need to perform on an emergency basis. Out of the supplies line, treats, foods, harnesses, leashes, miscellaneous equipment. Unforeseen expenses, I got supplies expenses. Unforeseen expenses not covered by services supplies. So we're pretty good, we're pretty confident that those numbers are still working for us. And that's slight increase. Oops, I have a typo on the bottom there, total line.
Should be 2.0.
Increase should be 336 at the bottom, and 2.04. The last page, I should have just skipped it.
Anyways, yeah.
All right, any questions on animal control besides that faux pas at the end there?
How many calls do you get for animal control?
That's a great question, and I can answer it.
You teed it up. Nice job.
So, let's see, so in 2023, 275 animal complaint calls we went on. Prior to, so the year before was 218. 284 was in 2021, 220. Yeah, it's right around, I'd say,
Just over 200.
Mid 200s, low 200s, pretty consistent.
Okay, that's a lot.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chief.
Any questions before we get up, or?
Are there any more questions from the committee for the chief? And then I'm going to ask if there's any other questions from the public for the chief. Okay, and seeing none, then thank you very much, Chief, Deputy Chief.
If anything crops up, feel free to reach out. We'll more than happy to answer these as best we can. And we got there's still some movement to do, but we're pretty happy that we're able to find these areas of reduction at the kind of 11th hour here. So great.
Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to continue on with our agenda here. And the next item on our agenda is the FY 2025 budget process updates. I'm going to go down some items here for us as a committee to look at. The town manager, Robert, emailed us the 2025 budget. So we have both been emailed that, and I did print out some copies for the committee members here. So we want to continue to take a look at that. Showing on that budget, draft budget, is the assessments from the high school and the technical school. We received the certified budgets for those, and those assessments are included in the 2025 budget. So the draft FY 2025 budget that we've been looking at does include our assessments for the two schools. Then the next item is I put together a sort of a final calendar for our group for the rest of March and April, and I've shared copies with the group here and emailed that to the group. And then again, this is just for the committee to take a look at, and then the actual calendar items will be posted to the town calendar. And actually I'm going to, the next item on our agenda, and I'm just going to sort of jump ahead, is outside committee updates. The reason I mentioned that is the first item on the calendar is March 19th is the select board meeting, which will include the water and sewer rate public hearing. So in a way, that's an update on the rate review committee. So that will be the finish of the rate review, and that will be addressed then. Just a quick item also on the outside committees is the Stormwater Utility Advisory Work Group is meeting on March 20th at Wednesday at 4. The next thing for us is March 21st, Thursday, 6 p.m. Our Finance Committee, we will be having a presentation by the Department of Public Works. And what we will also be doing is I'm going to ask Dan to make a good, concise presentation. We should plan, because you'll see in the next few items, that we will look at the budgets and school budgets and any other things that we've been discussing in the second half of that meeting on the 21st. Because that's going to lead us into March 27th. We have a joint meeting with the Select Board and Finance Committee of the second Public Budget Forum. And then following that Friday, March 29th, warrants are set to be sent out for review. And we have tentatively set up April 2nd, Tuesday, 6 p.m., another joint meeting of the Select Board and Finance Committee, which is a little bit new this year, but what we're looking is to review and approve the warrants in that session together. Last year, we approved the warrants separately. So this year, we're looking to do that together. And then that will leave us with the Finance Committee 2 more meetings of April 4th and April 18th, again, Thursdays at 6 p.m. And we can do any more discussions about the budget and quote-unquote prepare for the town meeting, which brings us to sort of the end game here, Monday, April 22nd, 7 p.m., annual town meeting. We usually do have some members of the Finance Committee attending that.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. So, on that, so I think that the main takeaway here is we've got the weeks March 27th, Wednesday joint meeting, and then Tuesday, April 2nd, another joint meeting where we, March 27th, look at the public forum, and then April 2nd, look at the warrants and with the select board. So we've got a busy 2 weeks there. In reference to those warrants, one thing that I've done for Eric and Bob being newer members, I actually sent you copies, and Bob, you actually have a printed copy, 2023 what we did with the warrants, and a summary of the warrants from 2023. So if you want to take a look at that, it'll give you an idea of what the warrants look like and how we approve them. So to sort of give you an idea of how that's going to happen on April 2nd. And also, I included in that is a draft of the warrants being developed for 2024. Again, that's for the Finance Committee. This was shared with the Select Board, so we can start getting an idea of which direction that the warrant is going for 2024. So that was a whole lot, but I think that sort of summed up what we got to do for the rest of this year. Questions from
None for me.
Eric, Jen?
No,
Nope, not for me.
Okay, good, good. All right, so again, we've got a busy month and a half to go. The next item on the agenda is to schedule the next meeting, and that's already been, we are scheduled for March 21st, 6 p.m.
I think that's gonna be a long meeting. Right, because he's got 3 things in his.
Department of Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was going to ask Dan to look at that, his presentation, and
Be concise.
be concise. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, but within the main concern of getting us the information. But I think we also will just need to be aware of, as a committee, that we got a busy too.
Yeah. I'm down for it, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I think I do need to stop and say that I think we are really doing a good job this year as a committee.
Well, we have a full committee this year, so it's a little easier.
Okay, so having said that, I'm going to open the meeting for any public comments.
Pauline has her hand up.
Yes, Pauline?
And Kurt, I just want to second what you just said. You all are doing a fabulous job. I have been watching you since day one, as you know, and I commend you. You have asked good questions, and I applaud you, and I thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. We appreciate your support. Being here from day one.
Thank you.
You're our original member. You're an honorary member at this point.
Anytime I can help, you just give me a call or a text or whatever, but you've done great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. Any other public comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion for the adjournment?
I won't do it this time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn, and with 2 members on Zoom, we will take a roll call to vote to adjourn. Kurt Freskowski says yes. Andrew Seeley?
Yes.
Yes.
Eric Smithson, yes.
And Bob France says yes, and Jen?
yes.
Great, thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned
Thank
as
you.
of 7:29.
Thank you.
Thank you.